Welcome to Beyond the Bio. Today's guest is Niall Ratcliffe, the CEO of Noticed, one of the fastest growing B2B marketing agencies in the UK. Niall started the business with his brother Morgan in 2022 from a spare room with just £18 to their name. That's a very specific amount. Maybe we need to ask some questions about that. But fast forward a couple of years, and Noticed is now working with major organisations, including the NHS, App and SaleCycle, as well as well-known brands like Ocean Beach and Dr. Wills. In this episode, we're talking about LinkedIn, one of my favourite topics, and why it's become one of the biggest opportunities in B2B right now. So we're going to be looking at what the smartest companies are doing behind the scenes, what's working on the platform today, and how founders and leaders can build trust and generate real pipeline without spending thousands on ads. Niall, welcome to Beyond the Bio.
Sophie, super excited to be here and chat about my favourite subject as well, which is LinkedIn.
Yay. Oh, it's good to find a fellow LinkedIn fan, because lots of people I speak to at the moment really love TikTok and Instagram. And I'm just like, no, LinkedIn is the one. So I'm really looking forward to diving into this with you. Now, you started Noticed from your spare room with 18 quid. Now you're working with some huge B2B brands. I want to unpack like how that all happened. But when did you realize that LinkedIn was going to be such a powerful growth channel? Was it linked to having 18 quid and going LinkedIn is the solution? Like, where did you get to with this?
Ironically, how it all started was when I think I was 19 at the time. I got this really unusual opportunity to work at a marketing startup in London. And I say it was an unusual opportunity because it was a marketing startup that didn't market companies, but it marketed people. It was a personal branding agency. And I was employee number 3 there. So they were taking a punt on a young person who didn't have much experience at all. And at the time, personal branding wasn't really a thing. So we were working with like famous podcasters, professional footballers, big CEOs, but we're doing everything for them. So like PR, running their Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, LinkedIn, like whatever they needed, it was like the agency did it. And I was 19 and like had access to all of their accounts, their social accounts, and everything else. And I was getting a first-hand look of what these massively famous and successful CEOs were doing. And this particular client we were working with had this music app. It was like a music dating app. And I remember him raising about 8 figures in his LinkedIn DMs. And I was watching him send pitch decks back and forth in the DMs while I was in his account. And them going like, okay, great, we're looking at this type of check size. Does that work? And it was like back and forth in the DMs. And they were like, okay, great, send me an email. And it was like, boom, just raise this amount. And there was another client that I saw have 7 figures in sales. I just go back and forth in the DMs. And this was not like, they didn't have a professional salesperson in the DMs. Like, this is them like 6 p.m. They're on the train home from the office. And they're just going back and forth in the DMs on LinkedIn. And at the time, everyone was talking about like TikTok or Clubhouse, if you remember that.
Yeah, Clubhouse, COVID years.
Yeah, there's a big thing, right? And we're like, TikTok's the new thing. Every business should be on TikTok. Every business should be on Clubhouse. And I was like, I think there's something with LinkedIn here. And everyone else I talked to was like, it's a job site. You know, like my dad still thinks it's a job site. But I was seeing people make a massive amount of money on there. And what really triggered it to start a business on LinkedIn was we had someone approach me and they essentially offered me my full-time salary to just work just with them. And I said, clearly there's something here. So as any good brother would, I called my brother and I said, I'm not sure, but I think we should start a business and I think we should do LinkedIn. And at the time, we put £9 each into the business account. And I remember it specifically because we put the exact amount in that we would need to buy the domain and I think the registration for company's house. And it was £18. We put £9 each into a business account. And then we went to LinkedIn and we said, look, we're starting a business. We're doing this, this, and this. And then 11 days later, we'd hit a 6-figure run rate. So we were already doing over 6 figures in revenue within 11 days as 2 lads with very minimal experience, no idea what they were doing. And it very quickly went from, maybe we should start a business to, oh shit, we have a business. What in the world do we do from here? And the rest is history. We're 3-4 years on now.
So what you started with back then in terms of what your proposition is or was, is it the same now or has it evolved?
Evolved massively with the times as well. I don't want to get too into like the technical side of it, but like with the new rise of technology and AI, like what you can actually do on LinkedIn is like so dramatically different to what you could do right then. Like back then they were introducing tools like the featured section, and we were having massive arbitrage by like adding lead magnets and newsletters into the featured section and simple things like that. If it was that easy now, Sophie, to drive revenue on LinkedIn, I would be a billionaire. Unfortunately, I'm far from it. And now we have to use an extensive amount of tools and strategies to derive that revenue from LinkedIn, but it's still a massive opportunity and a massive arbitrage on other platforms, especially for B2B.
How do you keep your knowledge of the platform up to date?
Thinking from first principles is how I always think about it, right? So like a lot of people will think, Sophie, like, oh, what's the algorithm update? And there's this Brew 360 and how we can optimize for it. Like, do you know what? I'll summarize the algorithm for everyone, right? The algorithm is LinkedIn wants more people to spend time on LinkedIn, and they want more people to spend money on LinkedIn, because that is the business of LinkedIn, and it's a networking platform. So you've got to think, okay, well, what do they want to do? Two things they probably want you to do is, one, keep people on the platform. So from a content perspective, you want to post content that increases dwell time, so it increases the amount of time they're going to be on the platform. And the second thing is you've got to use what LinkedIn gives you. The tools like Sales Navigator, which is a tool they've spent tens, if not hundreds of millions building, is a tool that's essentially a conversation starter. People fundamentally forget that LinkedIn, while it feels like a social media platform, is a networking platform fundamentally. So that's what we optimize all our campaigns around, is starting conversations. That's what I mean by first principles, is I'm not overthinking algorithm updates, how things are changing. I'm thinking, if I was LinkedIn, what would I want from my users? And we optimize our strategies around that, which is keeping people on the platform and starting conversations with them on the platform as well.
So are you doing that for individuals or companies? Or both?
So it started off with a lot of individuals. Now it's companies.
And is it the company pages that you're doing this through then?
So it's a mixture. So the way we work right now, if I like summarized it, is we will take a client on, we'll take on their company page. We'll generally take on 3 to 4 of their execs or sales team members or marketing team members, and we'll share content across all 4 of them. We then track intent signals off the back of those. So we'll track who engages on your content, who views your profile, anything like that across LinkedIn. And then we use outreach to start conversations with them. And that's a secret not many people talk about, Sophie, is that the majority of the money on LinkedIn is made not through inbound leads, which is, I think, this is like this big term of like, just post content and you'll be flooded with inbound leads. It's like, I post a lot of content, I have a lot of followers, I get a lot of impressions. Inbound leads wouldn't drive our business to the stage that we're driving it. The reality is we have to start conversations, and we have to be able to do it in a way that's trackable for growth targets. For example, let's say people have a LinkedIn strategy that relies on inbound leads. It's okay. Let's say that's me. I just do inbound leads. When do I hire our next sales rep? When do I hire our next account manager for capacity? Oh, well, 1 month we get 6 inbound leads. Next month we get 2. Then 1 month we get 24. It's like, also I can't project any growth then. It's a completely useless channel for me as a growth channel. I need predictable revenue driving systems. And that's what we're using LinkedIn for. So we focus on the top level, which would be like content positioning. But the main thing is like, how many conversations do we need to start to convert a lead into a sale? And we have those numbers, and then we can work backwards from that and make sure we're starting enough conversations that we're driving consistent revenue into the business.
And are there any stats that you can share around average conversion rates? How many conversations on average do people need to be having to get to that point? Or are you going to tell me it varies?
I'm going to tell you it varies. It really does. We have some clients that have like a 5% response rate on their LinkedIn messages. Like finance firm is one I'm thinking of in particular. We have others that have 25% response rate. In fact, we just did a campaign with an education company, Another Avenue, where they had a 40% plus response rate. But it all depends on a couple of things. One, who you're targeting. So like, if I'm targeting CFOs with a finance offer to transfer FX across countries, like best of luck having a 40% response rate. There's with Another Avenue, we were talking about an apprenticeship offer, where it's government-funded apprenticeships. It's like, well, that's a no-brainer offer people can respond to and have that response rate. So it'll massively vary. So I'd be lying if I gave you a proper figure.
Well, that's helpful to have a few examples there. That's cool.
What I will say, Sophie, is people have a range, is what you want is above a 15% response rate. And generally speaking, if you have higher than like a 25% response rate, you probably need to expand your target audience because it's quite high, which is great. So keep targeting those people, but there's also a chance you could probably broaden it and keep the response rate quite high as well and increase your volume.
What are the smartest B2B companies doing on LinkedIn that most people are missing out on?
Using it as phishing and using intent signals. So I don't want to get too technical, right? but I think about content as fishing. So I had a post in early 2025 that did 2.8 million impressions. It was a story post about how I couldn't afford a haircut back in the day. This photo of me having a 3-year-old, my brother cut it in the bathroom. We had mold in the sink. It was dreadful. We had no money to our name. And then it was me with our agency now. So it was an inspirational post. I had 2.8 million impressions, but our sales team, let's say they go to my post, they got 2.8 million impressions, they got 3,500 likes. They can go through every single like, and guess how many of them are leads? 0, because none of them are interested in our service. They were just inspired by a story I told. Whereas if I share a post that says how to master LinkedIn in 2026, my full outreach strategy, and I get 45 likes, my sales team can go through, and that's 45 people that are curious about LinkedIn and outreach on LinkedIn. Right, so that's fantastic. That's 45 people they can reach out to and start a conversation with. So I see what the best B2B brands are doing are treating LinkedIn like content, like fishing. So they're putting out content around their service, around their niche, and then they're using intent triggers. So you can use tools like Triggerfy or a gazillion others, and they're social listening tools. So they'll tell you who's engaging on what content. So you can literally get it. So anytime someone engages on a post with us, any of our team, we get a lead list built that our sales team can reach out to. So we're no longer just posting on LinkedIn and being like, this is fantastic, we're getting likes. But actually, the more content we put out, the more engagement we get, the more leads our sales team have to follow up with. And there's no longer a sales conversation, which is like, I always joke about it with cold calls, right? But it's like, to get a cold call right, you have to call me at the right time with an offer that I want, with a brand that I know of, in a way that makes me answer the phone, and then an opening line that makes me listen. Like, there's a million things that have to go right for me to just listen to you. Whereas if you've just liked to post about outreach, and then tomorrow you get a message from our sales team being like, hi, so you've been engaging in a bunch of content on LinkedIn outreach. Is that something you're chatting about internally? Well, we've seen the intent. We've started the conversation. We know that's something you're interested in. And there's 2 ways that conversation can go. They say, no, not interested right now. We're just curious. Or they say, yeah, that's something we're chatting about. And very quickly, it can go from like, okay, great, we'll have a great day. Or actually, well, let's jump on a call and let's chat about how we can do that for you. And that's what the fastest growing brands are doing. And they're leveraging AI and the new tools to track intent at scale. And they're using intent as a big fishing activity to put out content into the field, to use interest in what they're doing. And then they're scraping all that intent and starting conversations at scale. And not enough people are talking about it either, I don't think.
Yeah, really, really interesting. So is your view that you do need that mix of posts? We all love it, don't we, when we get the post that does get ridiculous amounts of impressions. I mean, I did one last year about when some local businessman crashed into my car on a roundabout. And I knew it would probably do quite well, and it did. I'm still getting sort of comments on it now, and it was about 9 months ago, but it went bonkers. But it's like you say, yeah, you get loads of likes, and I did get quite a lot of followers off that post. And I love the more updated analytics now on LinkedIn, where you can actually see how many you've got from that post and who's been viewing, all that stuff. But it goes back to that point. Do you then make any sales off that? Probably not. Whereas I've done a post this morning about, we're doing a Get Known Summit in Newcastle in June. So it's our 1-day in-person personal branding day. And I want to get some sponsors for that. Now, I knew when I posted that this morning, that's not going to get the 1,000 likes on it. Of course it's not. But what it has got, I don't know, I need to check it, but I was probably on about 50 likes. But I've had people in my DMs saying, yes, I would like the sponsorship pack. So if I sell those sponsorship places off that post, then which post is better? So it's really interesting, isn't it? But then it is that kind of getting people into your world, because you do need to grow your audience. And that's one of the things I love about LinkedIn, because your audience, when they're engaging in any way, it's that ripple effect of who's then going to see it from their networks. What are your thoughts around people that are buying followers on LinkedIn?
Buying followers is absolutely crazy. We have a client who bought followers on Instagram, and they had like 150,000 when they came on board, and it was like, who cares? Like, imagine, Sophie, if you sat down with me now and was like, oh, actually, I have 6 million followers on Twitter, but all my posts get 3 likes. It's like, who are you doing it for? Like, what? There's 2 reasons that I would use any social media platform. Would be 1, to get attention, and the second one would be to drive revenue into the business, and paying for followers does neither of those. Literally, like, in fact, it'd be easier to start with 0 than it would be to 1 million. In fact, I'll tell you a story that Ash Jones told me. Ash Jones runs Great Influence. He told me a story about Stephen Bartlett. When they first started on YouTube, I think Steve had something like an account with about 30,000 subscribers on it. And when he was starting Diary CEO, he realized that the account that he built with 30,000 subscribers would have no interest in what he was doing with Diary CEO. So he actually started from zero again when he started the Diary CEO channel. And I think that's so ironic and interesting because so many people would be like, what? Like, you have 30,000 on this channel to post with? But what Steve understood and what anyone who's at the top of the game understands is that, yeah, a follower number looks great for ego based, but the reality is he knew that those 30,000 people wouldn't be engaged on the podcast, on Diary CEO, and he knew it was better to approach it. And he used a new account and started from scratch. And obviously, we all know where the Diary CEO went from there, which is a perfect case study of like, ironically, while followers feel great and look great to the outside, they really mean very little unless they're engaged in what you're actually sharing about.
Yeah, totally agree. So when you're posting on behalf of companies from the company pages, how are you making those posts engaging enough for people to want to do anything with them? Because I normally think that founders or business leaders are more interesting because individuals are more interesting. So how do you keep those engagement levels high for the brand itself?
Yeah. So the first thing is we don't. To be honest, is like the engagement is going to be drastically lower. It's usually like 6 to 8x lower than it is on a founder profile or an exec profile. That's how LinkedIn is built. They want people to engage with people. Yeah, and that is just the fact. One thing we do though is we really focus on two things: is like utility. So how useful will it be in the next 12, 24 hours? If you saw this post on the company page, can you take action on it? Can you get something useful out of it in the next 12, 24 hours? That's its utility of the post. Generally speaking, that just means that the company page becomes a resource that's very useful for people. And that's probably the minimum standard we can do. And the second thing is, I talk about the intent triggers, and a lot of our focus now is starting conversations. So I'm always focused on making sure it's useful and making sure it's within the niche or the industry or the service that they're doing, so that while it might not get high engagement, that's not the intention. Our intention is just to see who puts up their hand, who triggers one of our intent triggers and says, do you know what, I'm curious about what you post about here. And that's what's useful for me. If you're sat there, unless you're a Sophie Miller and you're trying to build a community with PLM or Rachel because of marketing, there is potential with company pages as a media brand. It's very, very tough, and for me, not worth the investment for 90% of brands. Unless you're a SEMrush doing 500 million a year in revenue, I wouldn't try and build a big social presence on a LinkedIn company page. There's many different ways to do that, but that doesn't mean you can't drive revenue through your company page. And that's my focus.
So I'm definitely getting the theme here that, it's not all about likes. It's definitely about like how actually, what is this driving? What kind of revenue are we getting? What kind of leads? What kind of signals? All that sort of thing. You also talk about building trust rather than relying on ads. What does that look like in practice?
Yeah. So what I'm thinking about this is like, we don't touch ads. I think ads are amazing, and businesses make loads of money from them, and they're great to be a predictable system. What I think is the benefit of not doing ads first is by focusing on just sharing content and building trust over a long period. Trust is built over a long period. So that's like non-negotiable. We all understand that. So you can't necessarily do it with ads off the bat, like unless you're putting a large amount of budget in them. So for 99% of businesses, especially SMEs or solopreneurs, anyone below probably 50 million a year in revenue, like it's a so much better long-term strategy is just to be consistent, share value, get people to know you, and help them come across your brand in a slow process that builds massive amount of trust, versus trying to pump 10, 15 grand a month into ads and shortcut that process. Like, build the brand slowly based on clear trust signals, and then amplify with ads. And if I could change the word ads to anything, especially paid ads, I would change it to amplifiers, because the amplifiers have already successful strategies, and too many people think they can skip the line and pump it into ads. And you can, but best of luck doing it without some VC-backed money and a big burn rate.
That is such a great point. And linked to that, when we're talking about building trust and things taking time, how often are you recommending that people are posting on LinkedIn? I'm wondering if it's different to what I say.
One thing I'll tell you, a quick fact, is that in 2026, I over doubled my posting cadence. I went from 5 posts a week to 12 posts a week on LinkedIn.
What?
Yeah, so
just for you as an individual?
Just for me, just for mine. And I don't do it myself. We have an internal team who helps. We have a video editor full time. We've got Philippa who supports massively on a lot of it. and me, I spend a lot of my time there as well. So we've gone to 12 posts a week. Guess the increase in impressions.
I don't think it will have over doubled your impressions.
It is almost negligible.
That doesn't surprise me.
So it's
So
almost.
have you gone back down then?
Well, we're still in the test phase right now. We do that test on a quarterly basis.
So interesting.
But I think it's really useful to know, right? So like in December, we said we have the capabilities to produce way more content. You know, the people like Alex Hormozy, Gary Vee, they have this idea that volume negates luck.
They do.
That do more volume. I think that's great. I also think it works on different platforms, right? So YouTube right now, I think you can post 7 YouTube shorts a day. I think it has no impact on whether they're good or bad. LinkedIn's a very different platform. So I doubled my cadence. That's a lot of effort and energy. Less so now because I have a team around me. But yeah.
Still someone's time, isn't it? Still someone's time.
Exactly. And it was next to 0 increased impressions. What would I recommend then for other people? My thing I always say is stick to a cadence. I say 2 to 3 times a week is reasonable. And I would literally just say, I'm going to pick 2 to 3 days that I post on, and I would die before I don't post on those days. That's what I would say to 90% of people. And I think by just sticking to that cadence, that's 99% of your success from a content perspective on LinkedIn. It's just like saying I post on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays, and I always post on those days. Sometimes it'll be okay. Sometimes I'll have to think of a story. Sometimes I'll just have to reflect on what I'm doing. But I think that's a great way to do it. But yeah, I usually post 5 times a week on LinkedIn all the way through 2025. I doubled it to 10 and 12 most weeks. Let's say probably 11 average. No increase in impressions or engagement. And it makes sense, right?
I'm glad to hear that, because I don't think you need to post as often as some people say. So I'm great that this is now like science backed by Niall.
Yeah, I'll slide off on that.
I love it. Do you post on weekends?
I didn't. I'm going to start doing. I'm going to reduce once this test is done. I'm going to reduce to 7 posts a week, which is still a lot for a lot of people. And I'm going to do 1 a day. For me, I have such. If you saw my Kanban board of content, I probably have 30 to 40 polished pieces of content that I need to get out. And my issue is I'm having to post on other platforms because I have great content that I can't fit into my schedule on LinkedIn now. But yeah, I've started to post on weekends, and the reason I post on weekends is I actually think there's 2 really interesting things. Is I'm often on my phone on weekends. Like I'm on my phone more on the weekend than I am on the weekday. So I think, like, again, first principles thinking. I was sat on Sunday scrolling LinkedIn, and I was like, I should have posted right now because I am my target audience in a way, and I'm sat here on LinkedIn. Other people will be, but generally speaking, our top performing posts for clients have always been. This is another insight. We always put our best posts on a Wednesday or a Thursday. They've always been our best performing posts for clients. There is no necessarily science to that. It's just what we've seen. And it's, again, naturally included to the team. When they're scheduling the content, if they think there's a post as potential, we always say to on Wednesday and Thursday. My psychology behind it from a LinkedIn perspective would be it's late on in the week. So you become a little bit more laggard. You're not as interested in work. You're much more willing to get distracted and go on LinkedIn, if we're all being honest. And the second thing, you're also midweek. So you're more likely to be on LinkedIn and maybe put TikTok or Instagram to the side until on. But yeah, other than that, there's no necessarily science behind it. But Wednesdays and Thursdays are always been our best performing posting days.
That's good to know. Interesting. If someone listening or watching wants to start generating more leads from LinkedIn, what thing would you suggest that they focus on first?
I would optimize for conversations. I would say, how many conversations can I start each week? The simple way I would do this is I would get my profile like a landing page at the simplest level. I'd have a nice banner. I would have a headline that talks about what I do, who I do it for, the outcome I provide for them, and why me, so some credibility, some social proof. And I would then put out 2 or 3 posts a week. I would go for high utility, educational. If I had 0 followers though, I'd do a lot of storytelling and give them context on who I was, just so they could have buy-in. And then with time, I would go more educational, and I would go through all my profile viewers, all my engagers. I would manually send them 2 different messages. These are our highest converting messages of all time. We don't send them as much now because technology is advanced, but from a manual level when we used to do it, anyone who viewed my profile would send them a message saying, "Hi, I saw you view my profile. Is there anything I can help with, or are you just enjoying the content?" We have literally signed like hundreds and hundreds of thousands in revenue through that message, which is stupidly simple. I wish it was more complicated. It just says, "Hi, can I help you?" My friend Jack Frimston always says, if they're viewing your profile, they're in your restaurant. You just have to give them a menu.
I like it.
I love it. And the second message I would send is I would go on people who've engaged on my content, and I would say, "Hi, I saw you engage. I saw you like my post about the topic, so about LinkedIn? Is that something you're chatting about internally? Or I'd say, is that something you're curious about right now? And I'm just using simple human conversation starters, and they'll dictate whether I have a lead or not. They'll say, yeah, that is something we're chatting about internally. That's a lead. Let's have a sales conversation. Or they'll say, no, I was just curious. I thought it was a cool post. Great. Not a lead. Awesome. Have a great rest of your day.
Nice. Love it. Niall, I feel like I could chat to you all day because this is a hot topic and I love chatting about LinkedIn, but we are out of time. If anyone watching or listening hasn't come across you before, is LinkedIn the best place for them to find you?
LinkedIn, yeah, Niall Ratcliffe. Also YouTube, just started my YouTube journey, aiming for 1 video a week. There are much more deep dive breakdowns around how to drive revenue from LinkedIn. Again, my name everywhere.
Fab. Well, we'll make sure that we pop those links in the show notes to make it super easy for people to connect. Thanks so much. Thank you for listening. If you're serious about growing your profile, take our free profile assessment quiz to see where you're at right now and get hints and tips on how to improve your score. You'll find the link to the quiz in the show notes. If you've enjoyed the episode, it would be mint if you'd subscribe, like, and leave a review. See you next Monday.